Chip Bag Refilling Itself by U/Brownbird227. So, this is a pretty small glitch that I just noticed, but I thought it was interesting, so I thought that I'd share. Wednesday night, I went out and bought a bag of chips because I was craving them and I don't have any in the house. I came home with the chips around 10 or so and sat down to watch YouTube and snack on the chips in my room. The chip bag itself is one of those resealable bags where you pull a tab and rip open a dotted line on the front of the bag to reveal basically a Ziploc seal. The chips themselves are Hy-Vee brand, and if anyone will recognize that kind of seal that I'm talking about. As I opened the bag, I remember being kind of annoyed because I accidentally tore off a bit of the bag that was covering the Ziploc seal. It didn't affect how well the bag closed, it just kind of annoyed me. Well, anyway, I ate a couple chips, took a break to do something else, and then I ate the rest of the bag of chips. I remember this because I was kind of surprised that I finished the whole bag so quickly. Now, I just recently deep cleaned my room and there was nothing on the floor. However, I forgot to throw out the chip bag before going to bed and just left the bag on the ground instead. I went about my day as normal yesterday and even accidentally stepped on the bag a few times, and I could feel that it was completely empty. I'd been having a pretty normal day today, until I spotted the bag on the ground and decided to throw it away. I picked it up and felt heavy. The bag was full of chips. I don't keep chips in the house, and this is the first time that I've bought chips in about a month. The part of the bag covering the seal was torn, just like I remembered. I looked inside and all the chips were intact, which wouldn't have been possible with the number of times that I accidentally stepped on it. Plus, wouldn't I have heard or felt a crunch or something? No one comes in my room except me. Well, I'm very happy to have more chips, but just a little baffled. I Woke Up in an Alternate Dimension by U/All of the Kitty Cat Swag. This is my first ever glitch in the Matrix experience. It happened last week and it's so subtly obscure that I'm still not even sure if I want to share my experience. But here I am. I hope I can convey it clearly, so please let me know what you think. I have been renting a room in a cookie-cutter house in a cookie-cutter neighborhood for a whole year now, and I work full-time, and every day I walk out the front door, past the lawn, to get to my car that is parked on the street. I always look around to take in my surroundings to make sure that nothing is amiss. Every day for the past year, I've walked out the same door, past the same bushes and the same rocks, bordering the same lawn with the same tree in the middle of that yard. And Friday morning was no different. Friday night, I came home after work and the tree had been cut down at the base. Totally normal. And I stop and look at the yard, observing some spray-painted lines in the lawn. Not sure what they are there for, but nothing else seems out of place, so I make my way inside. The lawn is empty, just grass as it has been, except for the newly removed tree. Saturday morning, I walk outside to go to work and see my landlord working in the yard, and at the edge of the lawn by the driveway, there's a very new and very distinguishable light post with a large top and perpendicular light fixtures in the lawn. I have never seen this light post in my entire time renting, and I walk past this very spot every single day. And it's a very noticeable light post. I pointed to the light post and asked my landlord, "Oh, did you install this yourself?" He looked at me straight-faced and told me that it has always been there, and he shrugged me off and kept working. I looked at it again, and it had normal weathering and didn't look newly installed, but I know that it has never been there before that morning. Well, at least for me. Every morning since Saturday, I walk out the same door, past the same bushes, the same rocks, but there's that damn light post that I can't get past it, and I can't let it go. I couldn't have got an entire year completely oblivious to this very obvious light post in the lawn that I walk past multiple times a day. And it's just eating at me. Is it just me? Or is it the lamp? How could this be possible?
Basically, since 2018, I have been checking this very specific location on Google Maps and Apple Maps with the satellite images from time to time for reasons I won't get in here. I would check this small village that was, as I remember, 7 to 10 kilometers east of a big city and was connected through a big road, not a highway. It remained ever since until around September 2020 when I decided to recheck the same position, but found out things were extremely different. This village was now 15 to 20 kilometers northeast of the city and was only connected through a highway, which it was not before. However, this was not what shocked me. It was the huge quarry that appeared right next to it all of a sudden. This quarry was huge, 4 kilometers wide, and was surprised by its existence as it was not previously there, and it would take years for it to be dug out. So I decided to investigate. I went to Apple Maps and Bing Maps to see if the satellite image, and sure not, there was some quarry in their photos. I downloaded Google Earth and saw the historical satellite image of the area. The quarry had been there since the late 1980s. I contacted some local businesses on Instagram to ask them about the quarry, and they all told me it had been there for at least 150 years. It could not be a bug, as it would have had to affect Google Maps and Apple Maps in the same timestamp. It was not carbon monoxide poisoning, as I do not have such a gas at home. It was not drugs, as I have never done drugs before. I went to a therapist and she told me I was mentally healthy, and it could not have been any form of mental illness that could cause this. After September 2020, things seemed different. The quarry was just an indication of things not being right. My friends behaved differently. My brother, internet communities that I have been part of for a long time seem off. The world has never been the same after that month. I cannot prove I changed timelines, as I do not have photos or paintings of the village before it changed, but I'm sure. 100% the quarry was not there. You just have to take my word for it. I do not know if this has happened to some of you before.
This bottle doesn't exist, but I've seen her use it, and I found it in the cupboard by U/Syndex 9183. Not as scary as many of the stories I see, but damn, what a weird glitch. My wife had a leave-in conditioner that we mix up to help with hair strength and growth, and it works pretty damn good, but that's not the point. My wife, wanting to make this stuff, ordered the ingredients and a few bottles to apply it with. However, being cheap, the bottles were behind the rest of it. Being vapors, I grabbed an old 120 milliliter bottle to mix it up with. The nozzle is a great applicator to get it down to the scalp, so it worked great. She's been using it for weeks, and I've seen her use it multiple times. So last night, she asked for her conditioner because she's tired, so I go get it for her, which I don't normally do. I come back with the aforementioned repurposed vape bottle, and she looks at me like I'm insane. She asked me what the fuck I think I'm doing giving her vape juice. I answered, this is what you've been using. We mixed this up the first day you got your ingredients. Seems awful full though. The last time I saw it, I thought it was 3/4 empty. I've never seen that before in my life. What the fuck is going on? She says with wide eyes. I told her how it happened, how I put it in the fridge the first time because I didn't realize it was shelf stable, and how she likes a little nozzle because it really dug into her scalp. Nope, never happened. She goes and pulls another bottle from the closet, the one that we ordered, and it's about half empty since she's been using it. One of us is from another dimension, or they just merged together because both bottles exist and are filled with the same stuff. Just for fun, she used my bottle and it worked great, but she still insists that it never happened. Weird thing to glitch though, and I guess the devs weren't really paying attention. Duplicated Belt, Possible Timeline Jump by U/Keanu Weaponized. I know, the duplication of objects is not an uncommon scenario that people share on this subreddit, but I thought that I'd share my little story. So, my mother has this black leather jacket, authentic cow leather. It was custom made in East Africa from back in the early 80s. It has a belt loop on each side of the waist, and only one belt was made for it. Although, it looks more like a leather rope as it has no buckle or holes, and only adjustable by tying a knot at the front. When I was 16, my mother lets me keep this leather jacket. She claims to have outgrown it and haven't worn it in over 2 decades. And I must admit, it's still the coolest looking garment that I own. When I was 19, I had used this particular belt for a partial suspension hanging. And what I was going through at that time isn't really relevant to this story. This belt couldn't be mistaken for any other belt, and I had found that it worked best as the knot that I had tied had a tight grip on the rail in my wardrobe, which was very sturdy. Evidently, my plan came to a knot, and I tried to untie the belt knot from the rail, but it was to no avail because of how tight it was, so I just left it there, ignoring the noose that hung amongst my clothes. Kinda morbid really, but eventually it didn't bother me, and nobody else knew about it either. About a month ago, I was looking for a belt to wear with my corduroy trousers, and as I'm rummaging through my drawer, I pull out the leather belt. I'm stunned, because my first thought is that my mother must have found it in my wardrobe, untied it, and then put it in my drawer. But the belt looked fresh, no wrinkles from where the knot would have been. And I opened my wardrobe, and the noose is still there between my clothes. I am now analyzing both of them, and they are identical. I thought it was weird, so I asked my mother if the jacket came with 2 belts by any chance, and she said no, with full certainty. I have pondered the quantum immortality theory, where I may have actually committed suicide in an alternate timeline which led to me being transported to a timeline where I didn't do it. But really, who knows? Wind Chimes by U/Sheed51.
So last night I was watching a movie on Hulu called A Glitch in the Matrix with my girlfriend. I highly suggest you check it out if you haven't already, as it's very interesting and even talked about some similar glitches that I've read about in this sub. As I'm watching this with my girlfriend, she starts getting really into it and told me she had never heard of glitches in the Matrix. As we're watching, she tells me something strange happened to her recently that she couldn't explain. My girlfriend was very close to her grandma, who has just recently passed away. Her grandma was very into wind chimes. She collected them and owned a very specific wind chime that my girlfriend loved. It always hung on her grandmother's front porch, and when her grandma died, she wanted to go to the house and retrieve it, as it was very special to her. The day after her grandma died, she got to the house to help clean it out with her family. My girlfriend stressed that the only item she wanted from the house was that specific wind chime. When she got to the house, she said her and her family could not locate those wind chimes anywhere in the house. They always hung outside and her grandmother never took them down. However, they could not find these wind chimes anywhere. They looked all over the house from top to bottom with no luck. After hours of cleaning, they decided to give up, as they figured the chimes had probably gotten lost during the cleaning of her grandma's house. Fast forward a couple months, my girlfriend said one day she was driving past her grandma's old house. Someone new had moved in, and decided to stop and look at the house, as it held many memories of her grandma. Guess what she saw at the front porch? Yep, the wind chimes that she and her family looked for the whole day. They were even hung in the exact same spot her grandma had them before she died. She said this was impossible as no one in her family claimed they ever found them or hung them back up. To this day, those chimes are still hanging in the same spot. My girlfriend said she has debate about knocking on the door of the house to ask the people if she could have them back, as they were her favorite item of her grandma's. She said she swears there is no way her or her family all missed them when they were cleaning up her grandma's house. I have a feeling that the people who live there now don't even know those wind chimes are hanging out there. Perhaps it's her grandma sending her a signal that she is okay. Thank you for listening.
A Little Yet Monstrous Glitch by U/Prometheus, a Titan God. Let me start off by saying that I was reluctant to believe in the whole glitch thing, but I have had some really big glitches that made me accept the concept as possible. But my need to have some sanity can in some way dismiss them because there were things that had some level of uncertainty, like maybe I was misremembering or just didn't notice it, and many more. But this little one is different. I went to a convenience store on my break at work to get my usual energy drinks, and I'm a creature of habit, the same kind every single time. And I only change if they are out of stock or have a new one that I haven't tried yet. So I went to the refrigerated case and reached to grab two of the big ones that I always get, and then pause. Because I saw that they had a new watermelon one. Awesome, I thought, because I love watermelon. I picked up a can, read the label, because I'm extremely allergic to most artificial sweeteners. So I always check the labels of new ones. And as I read it, I even made a joke about the can, which was red and green, very ironically festive colors, since it was just after Christmas. I put the can directly under my arm and grabbed 2 of my regular ones, big white cans, and 1 in each hand. I walked directly to the register, and I was second in line, and I was also the last. The guy in front of me paid and walked away. I walked up and put the 2 white cans that I had in my hands down first, then took the one out from under my arm, and then put it on the counter. I was shocked to the point of saying "what the fuck" so loudly that I startled the cashier. It wasn't the same can. It wasn't the watermelon one. It wasn't the new red and green sugar-free one. It was a black and blue low-carb can, and not even remotely close. Not only that, the can was dirty and dented, and it wasn't even cold. Sure, it was under my arm, but it was less than 2 or 3 minutes. Not enough time to make it not remotely cold. The cashier then asked me what's the matter. He then saw the dirty dented can and said, "Oh, it's okay. I'll wait if you want to get one that's not damaged." And I just answered, "Oh, no, that's okay. I'll just get these." I know exactly what I had. I never put the watermelon one down, and it went directly under my arm. I read the damn label, examined the can. The colors are so drastically different anyways, totally different flavors, and I hate the low-carb one. Literally the only flavor that I hate. Not only that, but it was dirty and dented. I never would have gotten it, even if it's the one that I love, or even if it's the last one in the store. Besides, how was it not cold? The one that I put under my arm, the watermelon one, was noticeably cold when I read it. I tried to debunk this, but I can't. I never put it down. I couldn't have mixed it up with other flavors because they are white cans, and the large size was the black and blue small can. It was tightly held under my arm. No one got within 6 feet of me, social distancing and whatnot. I knew it was something bizarre, so I sat in the parking lot and tried posting it on Facebook 3 times so that I would have a record of the date and time of it. But my phone kept crashing. I said, "Okay, I refuse to forget or dismiss this, and I am not giving up." So, I did a video log instead on the way back to work so the event was fresh and accurate. The other weird thing is, I felt it starting to slip away from my memory, like it was being erased. I would think that I need to share this with so-and-so, then I go to tell them, and then forget what I wanted to tell them. After several times of this happening, I got pissed off. It felt like it was being deleted. The anger triggered adrenaline, and it all came back in full. And thanks to my video that I did moments after, I know that I wasn't misremembering. And now, I will have no issues remembering it because I told it to everyone and anyone, regardless of my fears of sounding crazy. Oh, yes, they did actually have a watermelon flavor that was new. I went back that day after work to try to buy it again, and was successful that time. Oddly enough, they didn't have any of the low-carb ones at all. So, I think this stuff happens all the time to people, and they just let the Matrix or universe auto-update their memories or something. Well, I have my auto-update. Shut off. Odd Dog Park Occurrence by U/The Voodoo Hyena. Over the weekend, I took my dog to our evening dog park. When we arrived, it was much less busy than usual. likely due to the Arizona monsoon season, as it had been threatening to rain all day. As we entered the park, there was an abandoned soccer ball in the field near the entrance. It was low on air, but still very much a ball, and I decided to give it a kick to get my dog to play. Once I gave it a swift kick, I heard the sound of a slight release of air. When the ball landed, it was flat. My dog is a thrasher, so he picked it up and swung it side to side, the limp casing flopping around and making loud smacking sounds when it would hit his sides. I would get him to leave the flattened ball alone, and I could easily step on it, flat as a pancake. Eventually, he got tired of the flattened ball, and we went to play with the other dogs. And I even saw a different dog chewing on the deflated remains. Once we decided to leave, I wanted to see if I could kick the mast towards the gate to get my dog to walk in that direction. So I kicked it hard, and this time as it landed, I heard the same sound of air releasing. And when it landed, it was suddenly back to being an actual ball, even if it's a little low on air. I was so confused. I kicked the ball and it rolled like a ball. Other people were in the park with me, but nobody else seemed to notice the weird occurrence. I am so mad at myself as I thought about taking a video of my dog playing with a flat ball for my boyfriend, but I was too lazy. And now I regret it, as I have no evidence that it ever even happened. I know this experience isn't life-changing, but it definitely freaked me out. Car Disappeared by U/Miranda's Midnight Hour.
I've been stalking this page for a while as I was racking up karma enough to post. And now that I have it, I had the strangest experience a few days ago, and I have to share it with someone. It was a girls' day, and my mom was driving. We were heading to hit up some thrift stores and an hour away from home. We were about halfway there on the interstate, and just talking and catching up is nice to do now that I've moved out. My mom likes to speed, so naturally, she was in the left lane. This particular spot on the interstate is notorious for wrecks and reckless driving, so we took in our surroundings and noted a car had pulled in behind us. There was a man driving with a woman in the front seat and a teenage boy in the back. After the exit that caused the accident, the car behind us went into the other lane. I, along with my mother, watched it do so. Then, another car blocks our view. As soon as the car blocking our view leaves, the car with the family was gone. There was no other exits, and I turned around to make sure it wasn't on the side of the road. It wasn't, and my mom, who's skeptical of glitches and things of that sort, was in disbelief. We slowed down and went into the slow lane waiting for it to show up, but we didn't see it again. My mom, who is still a little panicking, knew my nan, grandma, and aunt were out, so she called them. As soon as she answered, my mom sprung on them what had just happened, and that we wanted to make sure the car was okay. Turns out they were only 10-ish minutes heading in our direction, and said they would keep an eye out for it. We kept driving, waiting for the call, and finally it happened. They said that there were no cars and no signs of a wreck or someone having car trouble. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around where that family went, and I sure hope they are okay.
A business vehicle filled up twice at a petrol station where I work by U/Ravenclaw 67 Impala. I have been reading the stories on this sub for a few years now as a bit of light entertainment, but I never put much thought in them until it happened to me. For context, I work at a petrol station and this happened on Tuesday afternoon at around 1 p.m., a generally quiet period before the school pickup rush from 2 to 4. A car pulls into pump 1 and fills up, and then a huge business vehicle with a logo and much bigger fuel tank pulls into pump 2. Pump 2 starts filling up, and pump 1 comes in to pay. Another car then pulls into pump 3 and starts filling, while 2 is still filling and 1 is paying. Pump 3 then finishes and comes in to pay as pump 1 is leaving and is walking back to his car. He stops when he sees the guy from pump 3 and they start chatting. They're standing in the middle of the road, but it isn't busy and they are 2 grown men. I figure that they'll move if someone drives by. They keep chatting as they obviously know each other, and I go about some other general behind-the-counter jobs when number 2 comes in to pay. 1 and 3 are still chatting in the driveway area between the pumps and the shop. Pump 2 comes in wearing a uniform from the same business as is on the truck and pays for some $200 worth of fuel. I gave him his receipt, and then he leaves. He gets back in his truck and the people from pump 1 and 3 have to move for him to drive away. They do, then move off to the side to keep talking. Eventually, they finish up and pump 1 goes back to his car and drives away. Pump 3 comes in to pay just as the same business truck pulls into pump 2 again. He starts filling again, and I'm a little confused, but I think that he may be going for a long drive and wants to fill his second fuel tank or something. And I let him keep filling and serve pump 3. Our conversation goes as follows. Customer: So sorry about that. I hope you don't think I was going to drive away or anything. I answered, No, that's all good. We've got cameras and your license plate anyway. Was it just the fuel on pump 3 today? The customer then answered, Yeah, thanks. I was just chatting to an old friend who I haven't seen in about 5 years. I answered, That's nice to run into each other, and at a petrol station of all places. Though it must have been annoying to have to move out of the way for that business truck. He gave me a funny look and said that they never had to move and that no one drove by. I was stunned for a bit, but didn't really think much of it. I gave him his receipt, and then he left. A while later, Pump 2 comes in to pay for some $200 worth of fuel again, and it's the same guy in the same uniform from the same company. Our interaction goes like this. I said, Hey, how are you today? Going on a long drive? He answered, Nah, just filling up the company car. I said, Twice in one day. You must be busy driving. He then answered, What? This is my first time here today. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Because I know what I saw. But of course, I don't push it. I then just tell him, Oh, sorry. It must have been someone else I served today from the same business. Would you like the receipt? He seemed satisfied with my answer, yet said no to the receipt this time. I thought that this was weird because usually companies want it for tax purposes. But anyway, I wished him a good day and he left. I went through the past few transactions in the system to find his initial receipt, and it wasn't there. Pump 1 and 3, then 2, were the last transactions. I was so confused. I guess I could ask my manager to look at the security footage from that day, but I am just at a loss as to what happened. I know what I saw. So, Does anyone have any thoughts on this experience? Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.